Okay, item 1 on the agenda is a proposal to elect 13 directors to serve a term of 1 year. The 13 nominees for election are Richard L. Armitage, Richard H. Auchinleck, James E. Copeland Jr., Kenneth M. Duberstein, Ruth R. Harkin, Harold W. McGraw III, James J. Mulva, Harold J. Norvik, William K. Riley, Bobby S. Shackles, Victoria J. Schenkel, Catherine C. Turner, William E. Wade, Jr. Our bylaws provide that stockholder nominations for directors may be brought before today's meeting only if the corporate secretary receives a nomination in writing prior to today's annual meeting. For this annual meeting, stockholder nominations had to be received by February 13, 2009, and Ms. Kelly reports that no stockholder nominations have been received. Therefore, nominations for directors are closed. As indicated in the proxy statement, the Board of Directors recommends the stockholders elect the 13 director nominees.
I had a question regarding the nomination of the board, sir. My name is Deneen Borelli. I'm with Project 21, a black conservative public policy group. And this is actually a follow-up on the cap and trade question that just came up. I'm concerned as well. Since you are a couple of years away from retiring, it seems to me that the consequences of cap and trade will not be of your concern. And what's needed is for shareholders to have a mechanism to hold you accountable for that decision, which could be achieved, I think, by establishing a callback provision, whereby if cap and trade was shown to be harmful to the company would take back money you earned as CEO. Now, will you agree to establish a callback provision where you will reimburse 5 years of your total compensation of ConocoPhillips if it underperforms versus its competitors?
Well, with respect to ownership of ConocoPhillips stock at all, essentially retained compensation. I've retained my stock that I've been awarded for my whole career of 36 years. I tend to be a stockholder. I will not sell a share of stock.
But you do earn a regular salary, so that will be considered as well.
That's true. Now, with respect to a callback provision, after the time comes and I retire, and the impact of what the decisions are made with the investments, cap and trade, whatever it may be, I tend to be a shareholder for a very long period of time because I know the company well and I believe in the company and its long-term future. In terms of whether it's callback or how this is treated going forward, I'm sure the Compensation Committee, the suggestion that you are making, it will be noted by the Compensation Committee and the full board.
But I'm not looking for a peer review on this. I'm looking for your buy-in to be accountable for your decision on cap and trade, which is obviously a tax on fossil fuels, which will be detrimental to the company, the employees, consumers, and us shareholders.
I'm accountable today, tomorrow, for every decision I'm involved in.
You would agree to a callback provision?
No. Whatever the callback provisions we already have in place for the company, I think some of this is already indicated in the proxy statement, would be viewed, whether it's cap and trade or any issue that relates to my performance after a time period of retirement, is all subject to review. But that's just it.
Once you're retired, you're out of the picture. So in my view as a shareholder, I came all the way from New York to ask you this question and to see you smile. So in terms of a callback provision, is this something that you would consider?
Well,
that's all I'm asking.
It's something that to be considered by our board of directors, our compensation committee, talking and working with myself.
So it's not going to be personally a yes or no today for me?
No.
Okay. Thank you. So now I know how to vote for the board of directors.
Good morning. Tom Borelli again. I think you're at a point here recognizing where you are in your shareholder meeting. You've done a lot trying to reach out and I would say basically appease, a number of groups and groups, especially on climate change. And what you've gotten back on climate change is response from your complaints about oil sands or about not reporting enough on greenhouse gases. And, in this situation, you're in a tough spot. But, the best way to deal with this, perhaps, is the best defense is a good offense. I think you need to be much stronger in defending the social good your company provides in terms of energy, which is the lifeblood of our economy. I think you need to communicate more the jobs you provide, the tax revenues that you provide. I haven't heard much about that, obviously, in this meeting. I didn't hear really much about you this morning. I thought that was a pretty good presentation before you entered, where it talks about, all the drilling that you're doing and all the energy you're supplying. I mean, you're in the middle of a philosophical debate. And for you to win, and I mean everybody to win, because we need energy to make our economy go, you need to go on the offensive. So I'm asking you to consider that as a proactive strategy, and I would be willing to meet, if you met with all these other people, I would certainly be willing to meet with you again, because I think you really have good intentions. But I think what you really need to do is focus on what the social good your company does, and it does a lot. But if you don't say it, nobody else is. So that's my comment.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, our company, our industry, hasn't done a very good job of communication to the public in terms of the importance of oil and gas as energy, in terms of our standard of living and growth of our economy. We wouldn't have it without our industry. Now, we haven't been good at it in the past, and we know there's a cynical public that really questions, the industry and all the good that it does. But the point that I'm going to say, you make a good point of being proactive. Now, one of the things that we've done here in just the last few months, is we go back, just like the political process, grassroots. Some of our best ambassadors are employees and their families, our retirees, and then our customers. So we've gone out, and we are really pushing for what we think are the right issues of we don't need more fiscal take, and we're laying in thousands of letters, personal letters, not just form letters, into the political process. Congressmen, senators, state elected officials, and we know not only our company, but others, all we want is a fair hearing, state the facts, get the issues out. Now, coming back to cap and trade or climate legislation or whatever, we feel, by being proactive, working with the administration and Congress, that we've had a beneficial effect, whether you agree or don't, that whatever comes out of Congress, it ultimately comes out, if it does, that through our action, along with other oil, Shell, and BP, the view is that whatever that bill was going to, we made, however objectionable you might think it is, we made it better towards the oil industry than if we didn't participate. Now, obviously, whatever happens, whether it's cap and trade, it's a carbon tax, or it's a hybrid, is ultimately most likely going to be into the next year, and it's going to be quite a long conference and debate between whatever happens ultimately, if it does, in the Senate and the House. So our whole approach is to represent and to minimize, to the extent we can, how aggressive the House gets with respect to cap and trade. Now, that's been our approach, and we think we've been somewhat successful in doing that.
Well, I mean, to go back to cap and trade, I mean, you're part of a lobbying group that's not asking for a carbon tax. You're specifically asking for cap and trade, which we've discussed, put your company at a competitive disadvantage. And going back to my wife's comment, if you're so sure that cap and trade is the right way to go, let's do the clawback.
No, what we are really saying is we think the probability is reasonably high that cap and trade is what the world is moving toward in the United States. You can do it through a carbon tax. You can do it through cap and trade. I just said you can do it through a hybrid. We're open. We just want to participate in the process.
But yes or no? Aren't you part of a lobbying group that's lobbying for cap and trade? Yes or no?
We're part of U.S. cap. That's correct.
And that's lobbying for cap and trade. That's not a carbon tax.
Yes.
And that puts you at a competitive disadvantage to Exxon and Chevron.
I don't believe so.
If I show you the numbers, would you agree?
We'll look at the numbers.
And would you change your position?
Well, we'll look at the numbers.
See, okay, here we're back in circle. See, I tried to make you smile, and you start getting into cap and trade. What you need to do is defend your industry, your employees, and your morale. Oil and gas is good. You need to understand that. Maybe the problem is Bill Riley sitting there, who's, the environmentalist, who's trying to influence you. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, you make a really good point, though, of being proactive as an industry. And so I understand what you're saying.
But proactive on the wrong part.
Okay.
You're fighting a war that you can't win. Just go proactive. Get your employees involved. This is a philosophical battle. People don't like oil. Activists don't like oil. They don't like natural gas. They like nothing about it. They don't like holes in the ground. You should know that. You need to understand that. And you need to be the great defender of your industry and your employees. Because if you don't do it, nobody else is. Thank you.